You're listening to Truth to Power Live with Dumisani Washington. Hello, everyone. Truth to Power Live with Dumisani Washington. This is Sunday, November the 10th, 2024, 4 p.m. Eastern. I believe we are on 4 p.m. Eastern and everything, all systems are go. I sure do hope so, because last week we had some nightmare stuff happening technically, but we seem to be okay right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, welcome. Great to have you with us. You go to ttplive.com. ttplive.com. You can get more information about the show, although we have to update a couple other things, as well as look at some of the other episodes. All the episodes are listed at the bottom of the homepage. You click on that, it goes to the Podbean page. All the episodes. This is episode number 21. We started on Father's Day last June, and great to be with you. Who've done this almost 6 months, having a great time. Shout out to all of those who've been responding. Great to hear your feedback. It's funny. So I never say this, and I was telling my wife the other day I need to start doing this. So there's the TTP Live website, of course, right? And I hope you guys can hear me okay. I think we're good. Are we good? Good. I was just thinking, okay, yeah, good. Are we good? Yeah. Somebody give me a thumbs up there in the comment section there. I think we're good. We'll be program instigators. Yeah, program. Yep, absolutely. Okay, yeah, we're good. All right, thank you, everyone. ttplive.com is the website. We have it's a new podcast, everything, so everything's still kind of new. Everything, there's a Rumble page, there's a YouTube page, TTP Live, Truth to Power Live with Dumisani Washington. It's usually TTP Live 2 when you see it on there. There's also an X page, and I'll have a handful of followers. I maybe have 33, 34 subscribers at this point on the YouTube page, for example. But one of the last clips that we just shared was over 600 views, which is really funny because, again, it doesn't have a big reach there. It's new. So I'm saying all that to say this. If you don't mind, go to the YouTube page, go to the Rumble page, click like, subscribe. People that drives me crazy hearing that all the time, but that's why they do it. Like and subscribe the page, one of the videos that are there. We are also, the podcast is released on, what is that? Apple. It's not on Spotify just yet. It should be. And so for some reason it's not, but it's on many of the other podcasts. Truth to Power Live. Type in my name, Dumisani Washington. You should see it there. So again, getting the information out. Again, on Truth to Power Live with Dumisani Washington, we cover and discuss at any given time the Bible, music, politics, culture, Black American community, current events, geopolitics, Israel, Africa, marriage, family, education, and everything in between. And there is so much to discuss on today. Someone just sent me a little note there. I sent them an email or a text and about something that just happened. They said, hope it's a joke. I don't think it is a joke. It should be a joke, but I won't even touch on that one. I'm talking about breaking news and stuff. And again, this isn't really a news program. We deal with current events, but there's a lot of different things we talk about. Like, for example, I was contemplating having the discussion around politics and the King Hezekiah of Judah. There are some parallels that are there with what's happening right now. I don't think we're going to get into that today. I don't think so, but we'll see. All right. So we have a few things that we do need to get into today. I'm going to start with this, the Pogroms. Those of you who aren't aware already, again, now, I, among other things that I am privileged to do, other than the fact to be the husband to my wife, Valerie, of 36 years, our 6 children, our 3 grandchildren, to be a pastor, to be a musician. I'm grateful to be able to play those roles. Can you share the handle for the link of YouTube? Yeah, that's a good question. Can I share that handle? I at some point, I'm going to have to get another way of doing this, or I should have set it up. Someone asked me a question on there. I've just now seen it, and I can't share the handle. Okay, so I'm afraid if I mess it up, I'll really mess it up. So If you go to the website, ttplive.com, and you click on the YouTube icon on the bottom, that's the YouTube page. Same thing. There's another little icon. Boom. That's the Rumble page. And then the X page as well. So the Rumble, YouTube, and X pages are all linked there on the website. So I just thought about that just now. Glad that I remembered that because I generally forget stuff. I hate that I forget stuff all the time, but I do have a staff that helps me remember the stuff that I can remember, right? So yes, the pogroms in the Netherlands this past week, after or during, I guess, the soccer matches that were there, the Maccabi Tel Aviv team, which is the Israeli team, was there, and there were fans that were there that were being chased and beaten by not just fans of the rival teams, but were clearly Muslim or Islamic extremists, however you want to term. They're doing the Allah Akbar, Takbir, Allah Akbar, and they're beating people in the streets, and it's Kristallnacht again. And there's a couple of things I want to share about it. Not just that it's happening, just like violence of other sorts of happening. When it comes to Islamist violence, whether it's happening there in the Europe, whether it's happening against Israelis there, Hamas coming out of Gaza, Hezbollah coming out of Lebanon, whether it's happened to Nigerian Christians, whether it's happened to the Sudanese, the suspects are the same, and these are Islamic extremists, right? These are Islamists, those who either want to just kill those who are not Muslims like them, including other Muslims, or those who are trying to establish some sort of caliphate, some sort of Islamic political system, imposing what we call the demi laws. This is what was called from hundreds of years ago, when Islamic countries and leaders would take over and demand that everyone either convert or pay the tax. The same thing that would happen, unfortunately, with Christians. They would come into power and they would make Jews convert or die, and the whole thing again. So, right, it's not particular to Islam. It's just that today, the people who are being slaughtered by the thousands and displaced by the millions around the world, different parts of the world, is because of Islamic extremism. This is what's happening because it's not known. It's not named. Oftentimes it's not said because political correctness. I mean, political correctness is killing us in the West. And once they've effectively attacked our Jewish brothers and sisters, they'll be coming full throttle for the Christians. Some people say, oh, they're already burning churches in Europe. Yes, that's true. That's been going on for a while as well. It will get even worse once the extremists feel as though they've gained enough ground where the Jewish people are concerned. I believe that Israel even sent a plane rescuing many of those and bringing them back home to Israel, because there's an Israel now, unlike the original Kristallnacht. There is actual in Israel now where the Jewish people will be safe. So my Christian brothers and sisters, I say to you, as Islamic extremism and communism takes over your countries, where are you going to go? America is the last greatest hope for those who want freedom. As imperfect as a nation as it is still the strongest, freest constitutional republic and the democratic system that exists on the planet. The people's voices were heard the other day, and other people are losing their minds, and we don't have time to even get into that. So the pogrom here, there's a couple of specific things. There's a young lady who runs an account on X. I don't know her personally. Imsheen, I believe it is. I put it on there. So I'm going to play this clip for you. I want to start here with the pogroms, and I think I have one from Ayan Hirsi Ali as well. This clip here, it actually is talking about what's going on in the Netherlands, but it's giving us some more information. The information, I believe, came from a Telegraph account, and it's explaining, among other things, the Hamas connection to what's actually going on. And I believe there's a clip that's on here. If you see this, I'm going to pause it right here for those we can see it together. I'm clicking on stuff and I'm trying to get out of the way. And I'm reading Imsheen. This is what you see, that account there, Imsheen, I believe it is. And that's a Twitter account, right? Or X account. The pogrom in Amsterdam, she says, the Arab networks are publishing a collection of videos from the pogrom edited by the military wing of Hamas. At the beginning of the recording, chants of Allah Akbar are heard before the attack by the Israelis, followed by cursing and attacking Israelis. The emphasis I see here is one of the attackers with a green ribbon on his forehead and marking the Israelis with red triangles as a target, just like hitting vehicles or fighters in the Gaza Strip and I can't see the last thing because it's being covered, the military arm of Hamas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll it and I'm going to let you see. They're speaking in Arabic. Those who speak Arabic, you'll know what's being said. I don't know what's actually being said, but this gives you just a little clip as to what's happening. It gives you an overview. So check this little, it's a short clip and you'll see what she's talking about here. Yes, here we go. Now, just use this caption says, and now it's the time to show them who the Arabs and Palestinians are. Again, this is reportedly coming out of the military wing of Hamas. Hamas is a military wing, but coming out of Hamas.
Takbir! Takbir!
The Netherlands.
Takbir!
Green and then on right there, and I'm pausing it here. The moment when the fans of the Zionist club Maccabi Tel Aviv started to run away, right? So again, this is marked. It is reported by, you can go on the account there in X, reported by a military wing of Hamas. We're doing this for a reason, and they're saying that these red arrows or these red these flags are marking Zionist supporters of the Maccabi team. In other words, these are Israeli Jews or Israelis who've come in and support the team. So they're marked. You know who they are, and now they're coming to them. You'll see the mark again as they run into an apartment. Hotel, boom, they're there, and then boom, they're telling you these people running there, they are all supporting the Maccabi team. Right, so this was shown there, and again, you can go on the website. Oh, let me make sure I'm doing the right way. Boom, can I do like that? Yep. All right, I'm still learning, y'all. Boom. All right, so you can check that out. So again, this is information about not just being random attacks by Islamists, but seem to be coordinated attacks. And they said this video is being shared on Arab networks. Again, revealing what is it revealing? But again, not just random, which is bad. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but coordinated from some sort of Muslim Brotherhood outpost, some sort of Hamas outpost, in which they are targeting people, knowing who they are, and then actually giving aid to the ones who are there attacking them. Again, as if you're in the military, attacking certain vehicles or certain sites, right? This is being coordinated at very high levels, not to mention the fact that the money that it takes to do all this stuff, to have all this equipment and all this gear, so that you can use technology to attack the Jews. Something that I'm sure if they had that type of technology, Nazi Germany would have done that as well. But they did mark where Jewish stores were, who were Jewish authors, who were Jewish, whatever. And then when it actually happened, they are coming strategically. I mentioned this before we got started, and I didn't come prepared to discuss this in detail. But those of you who may remember who are Americans, you may remember several years ago that what was the Boston Mapping Project. There was an organization that did mapping for whatever else that you need in terms of technology. And this particular organization was partnering with one of the Intifada Muslim Brotherhood groups. And they had actually mapped out American Jews who are supporters of Israel. They call them the Zionists, their stores, their places of worship, their home. And on this map that was posted on Twitter at the time, and I believe other places, they would show you could click on it and you could see who the person was, what business they own, and they would talk to you and it would have information about their connection. If they gave to Israeli charities, they were supporters of the occupation. If they gave and they had children or in the Israeli military, they're supporters of the occupation. If they were those who went to pro-Israel events and help coordinate those types of things, they're supporting the occupation. But these people were being targeted with technology saying, boom, here's where they live, here's where they go to shul, here's where their businesses are. This was years ago, about 4 years ago when that actually happened. Not to mention the attacks that's been going on. It's funny, people saying to me, Pastor Misani, you're a Black Christian. Why do you care about these things? First of all, I'm a Christian who knows my Bible. I will bless those who bless you, curse those who curse you. That's first thing, right? Secondly, not the smartest man in the room, but I'm smart enough to know that if people with that type of ethnic and religious hatred will target one group, they'll target other groups. So that what starts with our Jewish brothers and sisters never ends with our Jewish brothers and sisters. So those cowards who are silent now will wish that someone would say something for them when they're targeted next. So this is what's happening right now. So this pogrom, as heinous as it is, as bad as it is being coordinated, ladies and gentlemen, and there's too many people being silent about it, right? So this goes back to the Netherlands, the Denmark, or wherever the area is, the government, the officials. This will have to be a crackdown and stop all this guessing. Gee, I wonder who's to know. You know it is. These Islamic extremists and the mosque and the organizations that they're connected to need to be investigated, need to be shut down. Otherwise, you just blowing smoke. You're not going to actually deal with it. If they were white supremacists, if they were Klan members, and them same leftists and them same woke folk would go right after them. And sure, go after them 100%. But don't act like you don't know what's happening because you don't like the narrative that's actually coming forward. This is the problem. So then our girl, Ayan Hirsi Ali, I say it like that. I don't know her personally, but have admired and appreciated her work. Quick clip from her, a commentary that she made not too long ago here. Let's see if I can do it this way.
France, in Germany, in the Netherlands, in Belgium, in Sweden, you have the existing Muslim communities setting up a parallel society where they don't feel a part of that society. And the demographics of these places have changed. It's a people with a political ideology that wants to eliminate the state of Israel, eliminate Jews, and Islamify the territories that they have come to through settlement, through the democratic process, and when the time is ripe, eventually through force. And what you saw last night in Amsterdam is a manifestation of that confidence in numbers.
Ayan Hirsi Ali is an immigrant from Somalia, as is Ilhan Omar. Before she came to the States, she was in, I believe, the Netherlands, if I'm not mistaken. And she knows firsthand of what she speaks. I believe suffered genital mutilation when she was just a girl in Somalia. Once she was in the Netherlands, I believe she ran for parliament. She was serving there. A friend of hers, if not more than one, was killed by a radical extremist. She eventually came to the States. And she, like people like Brigitte Gabriel of Act for America, have been sounding the alarm for, I think, well over 20 years now about radical Islam, Islamist ideology, not just general Muslims. Nope. They've been talking about those who have the ideology that every other religion and ethnicity is beneath them and that Islam will reign supreme over, and are willing to either help in establishing that with violence or look the other way or help fund the violence. This is what's been happening, and they've been doing this throughout the Western societies, and it's happening here. I didn't bring one of the clips, but we've had Muslim leaders in the Arab world warn the West. Yes. One of the UAE officials, that video went viral about 3 or 4 years ago, and they've been sharing it again, how he basically was saying, I didn't bring it this time. Some of you have seen it before. He said, we warned you all. I'm just going to paraphrase. We told you all. He said, the people, you arrogant Westerners, you know Islam better than us. You know Islamic extremism better than us. We UAE, Egypt, I believe, Bahrain, several others, have banned the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is a terrorist organization, and some of those Arab nations have banned them from operating in their borders. These are Muslims who are telling Westerners, those Muslims are crazy. Stop letting them run around in your society. We are Muslims. They are this type of Muslim, and he said, you guys are so, you know everything. We kept trying to tell you. Who was that? Was that Imam of Peace? He said, you made your bed, sleep in it. He said, you over here, and some of these other nations, these Muslim nations, they're running them out on a rail. You guys, you put them in Congress, put them in the State Department, put them in, national security, Students for Justice in Palestine, Free Palestine, the BDS. I mean, they're in all, they CARE. Hamas has its own, Hamas's civil rights organization is CARE, Council of American Islamic Relations. They've been tied in court to Hamas and fundraising for Hamas, no problem. You have congressional representatives who are connected with those organizations, with CARE, with Hamas. Good, all good. He said, you Westerners don't know what you're doing. This is exactly what's happening right now. And we say coming here, it'll be 10 times worse than what's going on in the Netherlands and in the UK. Why I say that, Pastor Misani? Because those operatives are already in upper levels of government, and have been for a long time. I shared a couple of weeks ago and a couple of other episodes, and I was saying this before too. This is episode 21. Over the past 3 or 4 episodes, they've been overlapping different topics. But when we come to this particular topic and a couple others, there's some overlap. Some things we've stated, shared some information. So I would encourage you to go back and check those out. Go to ttplive.com, click on all of the episodes and just check them out. You can download them out as a podcast. And they're on the YouTube page. Again, the YouTube page is on the bottom of the page. Just click on that, and the Rumble page, either one you want to check it out. And we've discussed these things. And it's a general, what we've discussed in the context of this, whether it's on the college campuses, whether it's coming from the State Department, right? Robert Malley has been a shield for the Islamic Republic of Iran for a year, back to the Obama administration. He lost his security clearance last year or earlier this year or whenever it was with the Biden administration because it was suspected that he was either feeding intel to Iran or whatever. And they're investigating. I still don't know what the results of the investigation are. You know, he went from there to Yale. Saeb Erekat was the chief propagandist spokesperson for the PLO almost the entire time that Yasser Arafat was the chairman. When he retired, Harvard offered him a position in the Kennedy School of, wasn't politics, I can't remember what it was, right? And hardly anybody said anything. Oh, he's a well-spoken statesman. It's instead of going, this dude was the propaganda wing of this terrorist Nazi organization called the Palestine Liberation Organization. They are all, so you have that mindset throughout government and has been for a long time. That's why I'm talking about the pogroms that you're seeing there. Much worse here. And I'm not just about violence in the street, right? I'm talking about laws, or legislation, or policies, whether it's foreign policy or domestic policy. That's why when the Biden administration put together its task force against anti-Semitism, they created CARE Hamas. You put Hamas on the task force to combat anti-Semitism. And they only got removed after October 7th when the head of CARE, Hamas, Nihad Awad, basically said how happy he was because of what Hamas just did to the Israelis. So they, oh, that's a bridge too far. We're going to have to take you off of this anti-Semitism task force. Really? Why were they there in the first place? Why haven't you dealt with the Muslim Brotherhood in the first place? And this is for years. So it's embedded in our culture. It's embedded in our politics. And it still needs to be dealt with. It's just making it more and more difficult. So what's going on in Europe is going to be much more. It's already happening here, but it's going to be much worse here for the reasons that I'm telling you. It's much more. There's much more power. Muslim Brotherhood has access to much more power here to implement the stuff that they want to see happen. This is just not a good situation, ladies and gentlemen. So let's keep on with the happy news. I gotta keep going as we're kind of connecting these threads. And I don't have it in front of me either. So this is episode 21, right? Episode 20 at the very least. Let's glance. 2019, if you go back, I think 19 is the one that we actually started with the Muslim Brotherhood, or not the Muslim Brotherhood, but we said that that Trump, his support coming out of the Arab Muslim community. So that would have been episode, 19. Michigan Muslims endorse President Trump. And then 20 was, ironically, white supremacist Richard Spencer endorses Kamala Harris. So I'm saying some of these things we addressed in those episodes because I want to address something else here. Let's see, how do we do this? So the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan. Now, again, this is also connected to Muslim support for Trump. Yes, Muslim support for Trump, which I believe he got, if I'm not mistaken, I've heard as much as 42% of the Muslim vote, and then as much as 50% of the Muslim vote in the United States. I don't know which one is which. I didn't do that. I didn't do a deeper dive of the numbers, but I would say something that I'm going to repeat something I said a couple weeks ago. Before the Muslims of Dearborn, of Michigan, Muslim leaders endorsed President Trump, which they did, he was already garnering 35% of the Muslim vote nationally, tracking from the election of 2020. I shared this before on a couple of, I believe episode 19, I believe it was, that in 2016, Donald Trump got 17% of the Muslim vote. And then in 2020, after 4 years of the most Zionist administration in history, he got 35% of the Muslim vote. So the fact that he may have gotten anywhere between 40 something and 50 something is not a big stretch, because Muslims were already voting for Donald Trump. Now, as we've already said, some of that is an Islamist presence that has their own agenda where the office of or the halls of power are concerned. And then some of that are just parents and families like any other Americans who are concerned about open borders and high inflation and indoctrination in schools. We shared all those things before. The reason I'm mentioning that is because the gentleman, the mayor of Dearborn, by the name of Mayor Abdullah Mammoud, all right? So Abdullah Mammoud is the mayor of Michigan, didn't endorse either one, but he gave an interview a few days after the election. Now, the reason why this person I'm sharing, not just because he's a mayor of Dearborn, and he wasn't a Trump supporter, right? He didn't endorse either candidate, Jill Stein, Trump, Kamala Harris. However, he gives some insight, and I guess I probably need to back up a little bit and give you a little bit more on this particular person, right? So if I have it, let me see if I have what I have here. So this particular mayor is the mayor of Dearborn, Abdullah Mammoud, was written about in Free Beacon, the Washington Free Beacon, and they talked about, and the reason I'm doing this, I'm pausing, I apologize, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm trying to find exactly where my slide is for this, and I don't see it for some reason. Okay, so there's something that seems to be missing. I'm pulling it up here. No, so sorry. Apologies. My apologies, everyone. Apologies. There's something that seems to be missing, and I'm not sure why it's missing. Either it is or I'm just overlooking it. Am I overlooking it? I wanted to share with you a clip from the article, and there it is right there. It was just hiding from me because I was messing up. This article is entitled "State Department Stands by Advisor Who Spoke at Pro-Hezbollah Rally Where Jews Were Told to Go Back to Poland." This is the Washington Free Beacon. I believe this article came out about 2 or 3 weeks ago. All right. This is just a couple of clips. Dearborn, Michigan, Mayor Abdullah Mammoud, this person that we're talking about right now, a member of the State Department's Assembly of Local Leaders, spoke on September 25th at a Stand with Lebanon rally in Dearborn to decry U.S. support for Israel against Hezbollah fighters in Lebanon. Mammoud, who has emerged as a leading critic of Israel following October 7th, touted his support for the anti-Israel divestment movement and said he said something about the actual fight. I'm jumping to another paragraph, right? So he let you know who he is. He's the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan. He has been a vocal critic of Israel during the war, this post-October 7th, and has attended the rallies in which death to Israel, and then in that same town, death to America are being chanted. Elected Dearborn mayor in 2021, Mammoud was introduced as, quote, the greatest mayor in the United States by Arab American activist Osama Siblani, whom the Harris campaign has met with to gain the support of Michigan's Muslim voters, hailed Hezbollah's Nasrallah during his speech as a hero and said of Israelis, "We will take you back to Poland." Now, again, obviously, Nasrallah is no longer alive. The election has already happened. Pastor Misani, why are you bringing that up? I'm glad you asked that question, because this is how relevant it is. In the discussions about the Arabs who either supported Trump or the leaders in the Arab community with this anti-Israel mindset, and again, free country, you can be who you want. We're talking about now the supporters, either the terrorism or in the midst of what's happening in and around us, signs that need to be checked out. I'm going to say this again, like I said to someone else earlier. Decades ago, there were those who were warning about what was going to be happening on our college campuses. They were ignored. Today, everybody's talking about what's going on college campuses. There are things that are happening now, as tough as things can be, that are speaking to what's going to happen in a moment. It's largely being ignored for lots of different reasons. I'm going to give you 2 clips. Clip number 1 from the interview with Abdullah Mammoud, because I want to talk to you about the propaganda, right? Because we're going to connect this to the right wing. We're doing the left wing for a moment, or we coming for the right. hold on a second here. Let's see if we can do this.
Very fortunate to be joined today by Mayor Abdullah Hammoud, Mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, which of course is a city that came in for a lot of attention this presidential election cycle. Great to see you again, Mayor.
Great to be with you.
Yeah, of course. So you decided ultimately, even though you're a Democrat, not to endorse in the race versus Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. Why did you make that decision, and what do you make ultimately of the results in your city?
Ultimately, my decision not to endorse stemmed on an issue of policy. We wanted a presidential candidate who would distance themselves from Benjamin Netanyahu and the ongoing genocide that's not only now in Palestine, but expanding in Lebanon. I'm of Lebanese origin and descent. So is my wife of Lebanese and Palestinian descent. To date, almost every resident I know in this city has had a family member or loved one killed, injured, or displaced. And so when you see the election results, and I just put out my message earlier, I think the first thing to note is no votes are promised to any party or to any candidate. Votes must be earned, first and foremost, especially from a community that is suffering directly from a genocide.
In that 1.5 minute clip, he said genocide 2 or 3 times, or I think at least 2 times. And it's an 8-minute interview. He says genocide. I'm estimating about 8 or 9 times. Right? So first of all, let's deal with the first things first. Whether in Gaza, they call it Palestine because they don't want to say Israel, whether it's Gaza or whether it's Lebanon, civilian deaths, innocent deaths, which are according to objective rubrics, are the least in this type of guerrilla warfare than any other nation. The IDF has the best track record in having to fight terrorists, coming back to the second, embedded in civilian populations. Hamas intentionally embeds itself in schools or near schools, near mosques, near churches, in hospitals. They do this on purpose so that as the IDF has to go and fight them, the IDF with precision as much as possible, and it does all these things already talked about. They send door knocks, they send text messages, they tell the civilian population, we're going to be coming in this area. And what Hamas does is careen them and make sure that they cannot leave. And the problem becomes for Israel, Hamas not only do they not care about the residents of Gaza, they want them killed in the battle so that they can say what this mayor just said: Israel is committing a genocide. Because I'm going to connect this to the other thing, in his claims of Israelis committing genocide in Gaza and in Lebanon, which is a lie, what he's not going to ever mention is Hezbollah, Hamas, the Islamic Republic of Iran, Islamic Jihad. Never. He's never going to mention that, because what he wants everyone to believe is that the Israelis decided one day to march into Gaza and start killing Gazans, to march into Lebanon and start killing Lebanese. It's a lie, but it's a lie that keeps getting repeated over and over again on the left, and it's happening increasingly on the right. Let's look at the second clip real quick, and I'll be done with this example.
Looking at the overall margin, what is it? It looks like Donald Trump took some 42% of the vote in the city of Dearborn. What's your reaction to that? There was a lot of discussion about whether voters like yourselves and others who were affected by this would be voting for Jill Stein and possibly even just sitting out. But many actually decided to affirmatively vote for Trump. What do you think the reason behind that is?
I think the reasoning behind this is, the messaging largely from the vice president's campaign was the other side is worse, and things will get worse in Palestine or in Lebanon.
The only reason why I played that clip, because as it goes on, you can Google it yourself and check it out. The only reason why I played that clip, because I'm showing you the propaganda, the terrorist propaganda sleight of hand. There are those who are shilling for terrorists directly, and there are those who are doing it indirectly. I'll come back to the indirectly in a moment. Why? The question, which was a legit question, was to the mayor of Dearborn: fine, you're not going to endorse Kamala Harris, which you didn't, and you're not going to endorse Trump, you're not going to endorse anyone. But if you were going to, Jill Stein, who we've already seen is the Green Party, I believe it's Green Party, is that what it is? Yeah. Has been pretty free Palestine from the beginning. Her position lines up much with yours. So fine, why didn't you endorse her? Now, the mayor could have said, we don't want to endorse anybody. What he goes then, he turns and pivot and makes it about Hamas, about the Harris administration, saying that Trump administration would be worse. So he could start talking about genocide. And that's exactly what he did. We are the anti-genocide and the pro-genocide. He didn't care about the political question. The propaganda aim was the same. He didn't acknowledge Jill Stein. He said nothing about why he didn't endorse. All he said was genocide, which is terrorist propaganda. Again, never mentioning why is the IDF fighting in Lebanon? Why is the IDF fighting in Gaza? Okay, the anti-Semites would have you believe because it's Zionist aggression and propaganda, or it's Zionist imperialism, and they want to take over the region. And I tell my Israeli friends all the time, you got independence in 1948. What's that, 76 years ago? What's taking you all so long to plant Israeli flags all over the region, right? You still got that little, and I'm being facetious. What I'm saying, the Israelis don't want domination in the region. They want to be safe. So what happens is that the lack of condemnation, which is why the head of CARE said he was happy about what Hamas did. It brought him joy to see what Hamas did to the Israelis there in Israel. Oh, and by the way, again, the Israelis who were killed, and there's some 1,300 on that day, and there's still 100 hostages still left there in Gaza right now. See, no conversation about Gaza. You wouldn't even know that there's Israeli hostages in Gaza because they will never bring it up as if it's a non-issue. The only issue is, how dare Israel go into Gaza and Lebanon and fight the terrorists, and especially in Gaza, try to bring back their hostages. That's the terrorist propaganda that's actually going on. Yep. And it's only increasing. The purpose is to demonize Israel, demonize Israel's government, demonize Jews, and demonize the U.S.-Israel relationship. And what I've told people before, Pastor Misani, why did you connect it to Trump? Trump's not doing, no, I'm not saying that Trump is doing anything, right? Like I talked about the other, not this gentleman here, but the other Muslim leaders that we talked about a couple of weeks ago who endorsed President Trump. There's a mixed bag, as I said that already. But even for those who have an Islamist ideology and Islamist goals, that's still not on President Trump. What I was only saying is that Trump's team would need to be aware of those agendas so as to not be subverted in their goal of a stronger, more prosperous America and a robust foreign policy. And yes, I'm all for getting out of needless wars, senseless wars, all of those things. At the same time, peace also comes through strength. So where Israel is concerned, for example, it has had to show, it's amazing how both, first of all, Bibi Netanyahu's approval rating in Israel is huge. Most of Israelis wanted to see Trump return to the White House because they recognize this as a time of peace and prosperity in their region as well. And much of the Arab world is also glad that Israel is dealing death blows to the Islamic Republic of Iran. It is in the West that Iran has all these rah-rah, the cheerleaders, and people want to act like terrorism doesn't exist. So that's the part I wanted to connect there. The pogroms, what's going on in Europe, what's already taking place here, and the type of political discussions that are all much of it propaganda, especially anti-Israel propaganda. So I said the right too. Yep, the left and the right. The left and the right. Left and the right. So I want to do this one first. I started not to do this one because I want to talk about this. But I said, in as much as I can, I'm dealing with most of these, I don't deal with names. I dealt with the mayor of Dearborn because of that specific interview, not specifically just him. I'm dealing with that specific interview, but I'm showing you that in that mindset that's there, that's in America, that's participating politically, national security in different areas, different ones, those who have the mindset that are spreading the libels about Israel committing genocide, and that libel is continuing to grow. It's already there on the left. I don't have time to do it today. The DNC has become the Islamist party of the United States of America. I'm going to say it again. Was this on? Testing 1, 2, 3. And again, for those of you, but I'm a Democrat and I support Israel. I'm going to say it again. You are going to become more and more of the minority. And you can clutch your pearls and gasp all you want. The DNC has so empowered. I think that there's something that I hope I can get to it. I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll see how it works out. Because I can connect some other dots for you, but I'm gonna stay on this one right here. I'm pausing because I think I want to do both things. I can't do both, so I'm trying to decide which one. I might have to come back to the other thing. So let's do this. A couple of other episodes ago as well. I believe it's episode number 16 entitled Ta-Nehisi Coates Joins the Black for Palestine Deception. We have some very specific Black community stuff to talk about, and we can't get in all of it today. But in the very near future, I may be writing an article for our organization, the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. I'm the CEO and the founder of it. We have a Substack, ibsi.substack.com. You can check out our different articles that are there. I am working on one now and got some information from one of my Persian Jewish friends about the Islamic Republic of Iran's specific outreach to the Black American community, African as well, to the Black Africans and Black Americans. That's been going on for a very, very long time. The clerics that they are training, they take them from America to Iran for 6, 7, 8 years, and they send them back either to America or from Africa, and they've taught them this Shia radical Islam. This has already been happening. They're feigning concern about the Black community, the whole George Floyd, and we are so concerned in Black Lives Matter. So that's a specific conversation we're going to have very soon. I'm working on the article now, and it might be released later on this week, and it'll be going to these other networks. Because when you go on ttplive.com, you can also join my Substack, and you'll get information about some of those other articles that I may even write for another, venue, whether it's IBSI or JNS or someone else, and send it to you. And this is the alarm that we're sounding to Black pastors and other Black leaders. It's already happening, but it's going to intensify here. We are. If I can say this in the context of spiritual warfare, what was it that God told Jeremiah, who was complaining about how intense everything was? God says to him, if you have walked with the footman and he has wearied thee, how can you contend with horses? Jeremiah, I know you're struggling, but it's about to get way more intense. And this is what God is saying. He said, if you've done the whole foot soldier thing, you've battled that in the spirit realm. If that first wave, he said, when the horsemen come, when the big artillery comes, yes. So we have to gird our loins, is something else that the Bible says. So we need to be aware of what's actually happening. So on the right, I want to share this with you. So in Ta-Nehisi Coates' book, he wrote a book called, well, you'll see it again. I'm sorry. It's escaping me. It's not just about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but it includes it. It's 3 different sections to it, and a third of it, which is actually the largest part of it, actually deals with Palestine, Israel-Palestine. I've already addressed that again in episode, what I say to you already, 16. Yeah, episode 16. You check that out, ttplive.com. And I had left this alone as well. But I'm gonna give you a 30-second tutorial. Here is conservative commentator Glenn Laurie and his cohort John McWhorter. This was a couple of months ago, and I want you to check out something that is said between the two of them, particularly from John McWhorter.
I stress it's not just a book about Palestine. It's a book about writing.
No,
So there, I'm finished. Oh,
that writing with a capital W should include genuinely constructive engagement with the situation, which has both a present and a past, and via elision, the word Hamas never appearing, so many other things never mentioned.
Why just that tiny clip? Glenn Laurie, who calls himself a conservative, has been praising Ta-Nehisi Coates' book, which is slander against Israel. He doesn't see it as way, just his view and his narrative. And those two gentlemen kind of went at it. They argue. I don't listen to it as much as I used to for different reasons, but that one popped up on my radar for the work that I do. I'm checking some stuff out. I checked it out, and I shared that little quick clip because though Glenn Laurie has lavished praise on Ta-Nehisi Coates and his book called The Message, in which he slams Israel as committing genocide, as being an apartheid state, John McWhorter very easily points out that, and I have not read Ta-Nehisi Coates' book. As a matter of fact, we even wrote about it on our IBSI Substack because I read the synopsis about it. I read comments that he's made about it. I watched it, so I don't have the time to spend reading another propaganda book about Israel. We heard it all before. It's regurgitated nonsense from the protocols of the elders of Zion. It's the same thing over and over again. We look at specific things when we need to. Though that having been said, John McWhorter tells you all you need to know for that clip that Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote an entire section of his book about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict or about what Israel's doing to Palestine and never once mentioned Hamas. That's my point. The same thing that I talked about with the mayor of Dearborn, the same thing that I talked about with the Muslim Brotherhood operatives, the ones who are doing these pogroms, this, that, and the other. Here's the thing. The way you do propaganda is either by straight up lying or by omitting, which he said by omission. He said he never mentioned the word Hamas or other things. He didn't give any context to what's happening in Gaza. He just condemned Israel as an apartheid state. It's lazy thinking. And that's one of the things these two gentlemen who are intellectuals, they're actually arguing about. John McWhorter came from Glenn Laurie. It was like going, okay, but you have a problem with Ibrahim X. Kendi and all the race baiting stuff, the DEI. You talk about how it's not thorough. They don't bring receipts and everything. But all of a sudden, we don't need receipts when it's Israel. That's on the right. I'm not finished. I'm just getting started with this part right here. It's on the right. So somehow we need proof, receipts. We need to have deep discussion until the Jews come into the discussion. Then whatever bad thing you said, it's got to be true because the Jews. It is a unique evil. I was sharing this. I've shared this before. I'm going to say it again. It is the oldest ethnic hatred on the planet. And the Bible tells us that when the Pharaoh decided to destroy the Hebrews, either to subjugate them in terms of labor, because their numbers were growing, and then later on to kill the baby boys. The sages say that both Egyptians and Hebrews were killed because the magicians went to Pharaoh and didn't know which camp the Messiah was born from. Was the deliverer of the Hebrews a Hebrew or an Egyptian? So it says in the text, it doesn't say throw the Hebrews in the Nile, it threw the baby boys in the Nile. But that having been said, that whole mindset, that entire program, which turned into this slaughter of children, was predicated on an assumption that one day the Hebrews may rise up against us. It was anti-Israel propaganda. There was no evidence that some sort of coup was being planned by the Hebrews. None of those things, but just that Pharaoh woke up one morning and decided, we got to do something about these Hebrews. The Bible lets us know the origin of this whole hatred for who God said, I will bless those who bless you, because it can have geopolitical connotations. It can have all kinds of ethnic things and all kinds of religious things. But the root of the hatred for Israel and the Jewish people is spiritual. And the saddest part about it is that it's trying to capture what is the freest nation on the planet, the United States of America. Which is why we're saying this, because it's happened on the left, it's happened on the right. So Glenn Laurie, that mindset, they're not shilling for Hamas. They're not waving Palestinian flags and saying from the river to the sea. But what they are doing is they're wanting to discuss the Israeli-Palestinian conflict with zero context. The same way the mayor of Dearborn said it. One day, poor people from Gaza was minding their own business. And they are being beat down by Hamas. And Israel just marched in and start killing them. And then one day they march in Lebanon and start killing them. It's like, oh my God, that's completely a lie. But enough people will believe it if they already hate the Jews. Because, oh, Israel, that's where the Jews live. Oh, yeah, of course they're slaughtering them because they're no good people. That's exactly what's happening more and more in the West. Now, it's interesting. I'll say this last thing about that last clip. I got to keep moving here. What's interesting is that these intellectuals have to weigh in on Israel. You notice that? It's like, it's a litmus test that whatever I do, whether I'm a writer like Ta-Nehisi Coates, or I'm a commentator and writer and economist like a Glenn Laurie, somehow there's nothing going on in the world outside of the United States except for in Israel. Right? That becomes, I don't care how domestic focused the person's thing is, whatever their thing, whether it's economics, whether it's education, whether it's entertainment, whatever they may be doing in the context of the United States. It's amazing that when this wind blows and they have to comment on something outside, they go nowhere. They don't go to India. They don't go to Pakistan. Australia, they don't, it's as if, and especially I'm talking about if there's conflicts. Nothing's going on in Sudan, nothing's going on in Syria, nothing's going on, but it's Palestine. It's as if the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is the very reason why we don't have world peace. And they approach it that way. I'm going to weigh in on it. Nobody asked you, first of all. You don't know what you're talking about. Secondly, you have nothing. Okay, we read your whole speech, your entire diatribe on the Jews. How about the millions that are being slaughtered in this place in Sudan? Not crickets, right? That's how you know it's anti-Semitism, right? So you gave all this spiel about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Do you have any comment on any other region in the world? No. They'll say something about Ukraine now, many of them, because of the media. And I'm saying that's not important. I'm just saying for many of them who just blah, 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 the media keeps talking about Ukraine, so I'll talk about Ukraine. The media's talking about this, I'll talk about that. The media's talking about Israel, Palestine, I'll talk about Israel, Palestine. But nothing else is going on anywhere else. Nothing else. Nowhere. The Islamic Republic of Iran is the number one state sponsor of terrorism. And the number one hotspot of terrorism on the planet is the region of Africa, particularly sub-Saharan Africa, where Christians in Africa and Nigeria are being killed by 5,000 to 6,000 per year, where there's so many being slaughtered in Sudan, they're not even hardly keeping numbers anymore. And this goes back for decades. You don't ever hear about those things. You don't hear about the Coptic Christians in Egypt. You don't hear about the Christians in Syria. You don't hear about the Christians in Iraq. You don't hear about it, not because it's not important, it is, or the Christian community in Iran, which has stood steadfast and firm, loving God and preaching the gospel and loving and praying for Israel. You don't hear about that unless you're in Christian networks. But when people want to pontificate, it's on Israel. Oh, Gaza this and Lebanon that. Do you know anything else? No. Couldn't find any other places on the map, as smart as they are. Where else might there be some conflicts? No, nothing about that. Well, that's because the United States gives money to Israel, has a military contract relationship with the United States, has a military contract relationship with many nations, including Egypt, including Nigeria, including Jordan. There's many of them. None of those nations gets discussed in any other context. Israel. Wait, I thought you were concerned about how much money, foreign money, was going out to all these wars. Okay, but why, when you say that, the only war you want to talk about is the one that Israel's fighting against the Islamists? None of the wars exist, right? And it's growing on the right for some of those reasons. Boy. So, for example, I don't know what's this guy's name? Stu somebody? There's a video that's coming out. There's already had a couple of million views on the trailer. I don't even want to do this. Let me say this now. This is on the right once again. This is I'm gonna say it now. This is a video for a trailer for a video that's coming out on the 24th, I believe. And if I can find it, because I'm doing that thing again where I can't find stuff. I don't know why I can't find it. It's called Occupied. I'm giving an example of the rhetoric. I'm sharing this for a reason. It's called Occupied. Now, we weren't able to edit out the bad language. So parents or younger people, I'm telling you now, give you a little heads up. I'm going to put up this video. It's about a minute, less than two. It's the trailer for a film. It's an anti-Zionist, anti-Israel, anti-Semitic film coming straight up from the right. Right now, we've left the left and come to the right. And I want you to check it out. I really battled with myself in terms of showing it. And I really came down on I need to show it. So I'm going to try to go on here again. There's bad language in here for those of you who are offended by that. And just letting you know, I didn't bleep it out. When we do clips for it later on for the podcast, we'll probably bleep them out. But I'm letting you know now there's bad language. Let's see if we can put it on.
The truth.
Nope, that's not it. That's not the one. I'm sorry. That was the, whatchamacallit. What is that? Oh, okay. So I'm trying to find it. It's called Occupied. Is that it there? For some reason, I'm not seeing it again. Slide, there's that. Sorry about that last little thing. That's what happens when you go live, ladies and gentlemen. And I always prefer to go live. I'm not seeing it. I'm not sure why I'm not seeing it exactly. So let's do this. I do want you to see it because I think it's important. So what I'm going to do, if I can, I'm not sure what happened to it exactly because it was on here. And it's called Occupied. Yeah. Here, let me show you. Here it is. Again, it's just a couple of minutes. Again, there's bad language, but check it out. This is coming on the right.
As Christians in a Christian country, we have a right to be, at minimum, agnostic about the leadership being all Jewishly occupied.
We literally should be at war with fucking Israel 100 times over, and instead we're just sending them money, and it's fucking craziness.
Look at the state of Israel, look at the state of Tel Aviv, and look at the state of Philadelphia. You tell me where this money's going. You tell me who's benefiting from this.
I am prepared to die in the battle, fighting this monstrosity that would wish to enslave me and my family and steal away any rights to my property and to take away my God. Go fuck yourself. will I submit to that.
And if you've got a foreign state, you've got dual citizens in your government, who do you think they're supporting?
God, right now, would you protect the nation of Israel and protect those of us, not just our church, but every church in the world and in this nation that's willing to put their neck on the line and say, we stand with them.
You can look at Trump's cabinet, you can Biden's cabinet, it's full of Jews.
I have a black friend in school. I have nothing against blacks. She has nothing against me. She understands where I'm coming from.
Excuse me, I'm a Jew, and I just like to say that, you know, in our Bible it says that you're like animals.
The Jews crucified our God.
There's so many different blood libels in the video. I'm not here to even try to unpack the video for you. Again, from the right, there's much that we could say. That's out on the Stu. I still don't know his name. Something Stu, something Stewart, somebody else. And it's on the And for those of you who want to see it, I could put the link from it on the website if possible. My apologies for now. I don't even remember the person's name. I guess that's how my brain works, because when I know they're sufficiently unhinged, I rarely commit certain things to memory. I dropped it on one of those here so people can see that from, like, it's on X. I'm sure they have their own website and everything too. I just want to point out one thing from that video, that documentary that's coming out. You know, the blame the Jews, and the Jews running the government, and the Jews and Israel, and the last shot is of the Israeli flag planted on top of the White House. That's straight out of the Islamist playbook. There, in other words, the Islamists want a Muslim flag. They want an ISIS flag, whatever, on top of the White House. But what I'm saying is that I'm showing you this one because there's many different aspects to it. The same way that the Islamists will never name or deal with Hezbollah, Hamas, Islamic Jihad. They'll talk about the wars in the Middle East totally in the context of Israel somehow causing problems. The same thing on the right. They talked in that clip about money. They even showed a shot of Tel Aviv. It's funny. And then they contrasted it with the shots of poorest parts of the most destitute parts of Philly. And I've been to both places. It's funny. I've been to Tel Aviv, and there are some parts of Tel Aviv that are rough with crime and with a certain amount of poverty. And then a lot of Tel Aviv is beautiful. And in Philadelphia, beautiful parts. And so what he's trying you to see is that the reason why these cities are poorly run in the United States is because of the Jews. But it's not even just that. It's that they showed you pictures of the battles in Gaza, as if these white supremacists in the video give a crap about Arab Muslims or Christians in Gaza or anywhere else. They don't care about the fighting there. They just want to demonize the Jews and sever U.S. ties with Israel. So the left and the right Jew haters are working in concert. See, the real potential danger in the Trump administration with some Islamists coming closer to the administration, or at the very least working with it, which you got to work with whoever, right? Here's the thing. Here's the danger. The danger isn't so much them duping Trump and his team. I don't use the word danger. The situation you're going to have is more and more these Israel and Jew haters on the left and the right politically aligning with each other. We're about free speech, Pastor Musani. I'm not talking about free speech. Terrorism is illegal. Advocating for people's death is illegal. But people having their attitudes about, well, the protocols they are designed and the Jews are doing that. I'm not, again, like I said before, I ain't talking about people's ex posts being taken down. None of that stuff. They have the freedom to say the most nastiest, vile stuff that they want to say. I'm pointing out ideology, how they're connected, and what we should be paying attention to, whether it's coming from the left or from the right, because if not checked, and they're not really being checked, right? These things are issues of national security. I had more to do. I just, because I could say more. Let me do this one last thing, because when we're talking about that, we're talking about now the capture. I tried to share this video before last week. It didn't really happen because the tech stuff wasn't really working. It seems to be working now. So let me finish this one last thing, and maybe we can pick up from here a little bit later on. Going a little bit over what I try to give myself an hour. Our good friend, Dr. Brandy Shufutinsky, is the first point in this video, and they're talking about what's going on academically. Now, not in colleges now, but K through 12.
2 years undercover, attending online meetings for liberated ethnic studies, researching how California was going to implement its ethnic studies requirement. What I found there disturbed me. There was a well-funded, well-coordinated effort to instill anti-Israel biases into high school curriculum in California.
Just like with gender ideology in the schools and the racism, we saw the anti-white settler colonialist idea that was pushed in the schools. Now you have the anti-Israel Jews are the white settler colonialist oppressors idea. It is being pushed in public schools. It's funded by a constellation of very radical anti-Israel groups. They are supplying curricula to teachers, and we are seeing it all over the country. And in those, this is what I want people to know, in those schools where teachers are pushing this anti-Israel curricula and materials, we are seeing intimidation, harassment, and violence towards Jewish students.
I'm a Jewish Israeli student who recently graduated from high school in California. Over the past year, since the beginning of the war, our school has completely boomed with incidents of anti-Semitism and racism directed towards Israeli and Jewish students. It ranged from us having food thrown at us in the yard to us getting removed from the school talent show on account of our singing in Hebrew, making students feel uncomfortable.
This young woman tried to sing a Hebrew song, Yesh Bi'ahava. The song is There Is Love Inside Me. You know, this is a feel-good song. And she dedicated it to her family in Israel. This was at a talent show in which many students were singing songs from their ethnic heritage. She was pulled aside afterward and told that there would be a meeting about her song because it was offensive to people.
You can read more about my story and the stories of many other Jewish students at thefp.com.
That's the Free Press. Now, it is an article that was done, that was actually written about 2 weeks ago. I meant to share that with you last time, and I'm going to close up here in a second. So, because I need to make this last comment as I go towards the election. Part of the reason why the Trump the Trump team, the Trump campaign, and by default the Republican Party, who've been at odds with Trump for a long time, was able to cobble together such a broad coalition. And right here, for those of you who are watching this, who are the Trump derangement place, this is, you're probably going to lose your stuff or you click off, whatever. But if you're brave enough, listen to me. Donald Trump, he did it in his first administration, but especially now during this campaign, spoke to where people are. But he's a fascist, Pastor B. I can't even deal with you right now. He spoke to them economically. He spoke in terms of security, the border. He spoke to them in terms of education. I can't remember his name. Corey, what's your last name? He does I didn't pull it up right now. Not De Los Angeles. It's D'Angelo, I believe it is. Corey. I think he works for the Heritage Foundation. And he posted a graphic, and I wasn't going to do this today either. I'm not going to try to pull it up, that the majority, something like 54% of parents voted for Trump. Parents broke for Biden the last time. They broke for Trump. One of the things that we know that the Trump administration was doing was touting education choice. It is one of the universal things like economy, gas, money, jobs. Okay. So parents of school-age children who voted for Donald Trump, many of them did so because of the concern that they have with the indoctrination of their child in public schools. Whether that indoctrination is transitioning them from boy to girl and girl to boy and not saying anything in the parents, confusing them about the gender confusion stuff, whether that indoctrination is a bunch of Marxism. America was founded by white settler colonialists colonialists, all slave catchers and slave masters who were committing genocide against the Native Americans. There's no redeeming quality for the United States of America whatsoever. It's bad, 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 bad. White people are evil and blah, 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 blah. Or even the anti-Zionist one, both for our Jewish and non-Jewish parents who are, like you just saw in that quick little clip, these kids are being taught from K through 12 that Israel is a settler, colonial. So, ladies and gentlemen, we talk about pogrom. Why it's much worse going on here. It's in our schools. It's in our colleges. It's in the State Department. This is everywhere. And part of the reason why is because particularly when it comes from the left, there's no courage to speak about it. It's part of what's going on. So some who voted for Trump, whether they consider themselves pro-Israel, anti-Israel, or either one, some of the parents who voted because they wanted to ensure their right to school choice, to be able to send their child to the school of their choosing, a charter school, a parochial school, to homeschool, all of those things. And for those snooty people like, people need to go to public school, those are the very ones whose kids either don't go to failing public schools or the public schools in their area are great. So Trump's campaign spoke to where people were, and part of the reason why record votes from Republicans got Native Americans at 65%. I saw one stat. I told you before, the Muslim vote for the Republicans for Trump was between 42 to 50%. Black men at 20-something%. His Hispanic vote 60%. At least in Michigan, I think it got 60% of the. I mean, you had different ethnicities, and the biggest Jewish vote in decades, if not ever, in terms of a Republican candidate. Why? People from different walks of life, different ethnicities, different religions, because they had some things in common, and one of those had to do with education. So I've gone over time. I'm going to do this because it really blessed me. I don't know who this young lady is, but she went on TikTok and decided to give a different message, a shout out to Black men where this whole election thing was concerned. So let me get ready to end it and close it out with right here. I'm over time, but I want to end this on a good note right here. Let's check it out.
Scrolling, and I see a lot of Black women making videos talking down to Black men who voted for Trump. And I just have to say, if you voted for Trump and you're a Black man, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I thank you because I know exactly why you voted for Trump. You voted for secure borders so that us women and children can be safe. You voted for a strong economy so that us women and children can be provided for. You voted for our children to not be indoctrinated in this failed public school system. You voted for my right to not have to use the bathroom with a biological man. You also voted for our children not to be drafted into another endless, senseless war that only benefits the military-industrial complex. And also, you voted for the protection of our freedom of speech. The same freedom of speech that these evil, nasty, disgusting women are using to wish death upon you. So as a Black woman, I just want to say thank you for voting for Trump. I truly appreciate you, and I'm going to speak life into you. I pray that God continues to protect you and guide you. I pray that He gives you the success that you deserve. I pray that He gives you the strength to lead your family and your communities. And for anyone who wants to say in the comments that I'm a pick-me, baby, I'm already chosen. So what about you? It's Trump 2024. You already know. Thank you.
Thank you, young lady, and you're welcome. All right, so I was going to sign off right there, but I got one last thing. So again, I said this, I don't think I said this in the beginning of this particular podcast. I think I said it earlier or something else. So God say the same. I will not be here in place in the studio on next Sunday, the 17th of November. Quick announcement here. I make this public. I have the honor and the privilege, ladies and gentlemen, of traveling to Poland this coming Sunday, next Sunday, and participate in the European Jewish Association annual delegation to Auschwitz in commemoration of Kristallnacht. The people who are over the organization reached out to our organization, and they invited me to come in the midst of everything that's going on. We almost turned it down just because there's so much that's going on, but we were able to kind of thread that needle. So I will be joining the delegation there at Krakow. We're going to Auschwitz at the anniversary of Kristallnacht, and there'll be a panel that we'll be participating in. And so I'm honored to do it. So I won't be here in place able to do Truth to Power Live. either it won't be anything on that time on 4 p.m. Eastern, but what we may do is a special edition of episode 22 on Saturday evening next weekend. So we're not really sure about that, but I wanted to let you know, won't be here for that first part of it on the 17th of Sunday, because again, headed to Europe, headed to Poland for this illustrious event. And again, honored to be there and have this conversation at such a crucial time. As I was sharing with one of the other organizers here, we have African Christians talking about this very same thing, the Islamist terrorism and the type of slaughtering that's happening where they are in places like Nigeria and Sudan and Mauritania and everything, and their connection with the Jewish people, recognizing it's the same enemy that they are fighting, this Islamist ideology. So again, won't be able to be here next week, but we're looking forward to that on next week, being in Poland, and we'll bring back a report for you about it and everything. So I think that's all we have for today, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on today. Looking forward to seeing you hopefully next week or by Saturday night. Everyone, bless you and have a great week.
Truth to Power Live with Jimmy Study Washington.